I'm leaving you for Ethan. He's everything you're not, Mia said, her voice sharp as she zipped up a duffel bag in their Seattle apartment. Jake stood frozen in the doorway, keys still in hand, the faint buzz of the city outside barely registering. He'd come home early, hoping to surprise her with takeout from their favorite Thai place. Instead, her words hit like a sucker punch. He forced a slow nod, his mind racing. Cool, he said, voice steady despite the churn in his gut. But his boss might want to see the texts I just found. Mia's smirk vanished as he held up his phone, the screen glowing with a screenshot of her messages to Ethan, her coworker. Her eyes widened, but she didn't speak. The air between them crackled with unspoken accusations. Jake, a 28-year-old software developer, was the guy everyone counted on. At work, he debugged code for panicked colleagues before deadlines. In his neighborhood, he was the one who'd carry groceries up 3 flights for Mrs. Carter, the retiree next door, cracking jokes to make her laugh. With Mia, his girlfriend of 3 years, he was the planner, organizing weekend hikes, booking dinner reservations, keeping their shared Google Calendar synced. Tonight, he'd planned a quiet evening to celebrate their anniversary a week early, knowing her marketing job had her swamped. He'd even stopped by their favorite food truck, grabbing mango sticky rice, because it always made her smile. But the second he stepped into their apartment, something felt off. The air carried a sharp, unfamiliar scent. Not his cologne, not hers. Then he heard her voice from the bedroom, low and laughing, saying, Ethan gets me in ways Jake never will. Jake's first instinct was to barge in, but he stopped himself. He slipped his phone from his pocket, heart pounding, and opened their shared cloud drive. Mia had always been careless with logins, syncing everything to their joint account for convenience. He scrolled through her texts, his thumb trembling as he found a thread with Ethan, he assumed. Messages from the past 2 weeks flooded the screen, late-night chats, flirty emojis, plans to meet at a downtown bar. One from yesterday read, Can't wait to see you tonight. Jake's working late. His stomach twisted. He took a screenshot, then another, each one a nail in the coffin of the life he thought they had. Now, standing in the doorway, he watched Mia sling the duffel over her shoulder. She wore her usual work confidence, but her hands shook slightly as she avoided his gaze. This isn't what you think, she started, her tone defensive, like she was pitching a client. Ethan's just, he listens, okay? Work's been hell, and you're always buried in your laptop. Jake raised an eyebrow, pocketing his phone. So you're leaving me because I work? Or because he's better at pretending to care? His voice stayed calm, but his pulse thundered. He wasn't yelling, not yet. He wanted answers, not a fight. Mia's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. Instead, she pushed past him toward the door, her bag brushing against his arm. I'll be at my sister's, she muttered. We'll talk later. The door clicked shut behind her, and Jake stood alone in the quiet. He didn't chase her, didn't call out. Instead, he sank onto the couch, the takeout bag still warm in his hand. His phone buzzed, a text from his brother, Liam. You good? Want to grab a beer? Jake typed back, need a place to crash tonight. No explanation, not yet. Liam replied instantly, doors open. Come over. Jake grabbed a backpack, stuffing in a laptop, charger, and a change of clothes. Before leaving, he glanced at the fridge, where a photo of him and Mia at Pike Place Market still hung, a moment from last summer, both of them laughing, fish flying in the background. He didn't take it down. He locked the door and drove to Liam's place across town, the Seattle skyline blurring through the rain-streaked windshield. His mind kept replaying her words. He's everything you're not. What did that even mean? Was it his late nights coding? His quiet mornings sipping coffee while she scrolled her phone? Or was it something deeper, something he'd missed? Liam's apartment was a cluttered 2-bedroom in Capitol Hill, the kind of place where empty coffee mugs doubled as decor. Liam, 30 and a freelance graphic designer, opened the door in a hoodie and socks, a basketball game muted on the TV. You look like crap, he said, stepping aside. Jake dropped his bag and collapsed onto the couch. Mia's leaving me, he said, the words feeling foreign. Some guy named Ethan. Liam whistled low, grabbing 2 beers from the fridge. Work Ethan? The slick marketing dude? Jake nodded, cracking open the can. Found their texts. She's been sneaking around for weeks, maybe longer. Liam leaned back, giving him space to talk. Jake didn't say much more, just sipped the beer, staring at the TV without seeing it. His phone buzzed again. Mia, I didn't mean it like that. Can we talk tomorrow? He silenced it and turned to Liam. I need to figure out who this guy is. The next morning, Jake woke up on Liam's pull-out couch, his neck stiff, but his mind clearer. He opened his laptop and started digging. Ethan's LinkedIn was easy to find. Ethan Carter, 32, senior account manager at Mia's agency, with a polished headshot and a string of buzzwords like disruptive branding and client synergy. Jake cross-referenced the agency's social media, finding photos from recent events. There he was, Ethan, all smiles, leaning close to Mia in a group shot, his hand grazing her arm. Jake's jaw clenched, but he kept scrolling, saving every post, every tag. Then a message popped up from Sarah, a co-worker of Mia's he'd met at a company barbecue. Heard you and Mia had a fight. You okay? Jake hesitated, then replied, not really. What do you know about Ethan? Sarah's response came fast. He's bad news. Charms everyone, but he's got a reputation. Picks women who are stressed, overworked. Makes them feel special, then moves on. You're not the first guy he screwed over. Jake's fingers froze on the keyboard. This wasn't just a fling. Ethan had a playbook. Jake saved the message, his mind shifting from hurt to strategy. He wasn't going to let this guy walk away clean. By noon, Jake was back at his apartment, alone. Mia hadn't returned, but her coffee mug sat on the counter, lipstick smudged on the rim. He ignored it and opened his laptop again, pulling up the agency's internal project portal, another login Mia had shared ages ago. He found Ethan's project logs, late-night meetings with Mia, creative sessions at bars, expense reports for drinks and cabs. Each entry was a breadcrumb, leading Jake closer to the truth. He wasn't sure what he'd do with it yet, but he knew one thing. Ethan wasn't just a problem for him. He was a problem, period. And Jake was done being the guy who stayed quiet. Jake's laptop screen glowed in the dim light of Liam's apartment, casting sharp shadows as he scrolled through Ethan's digital trail. It had been 3 days since Mia's bombshell. I'm leaving you for Ethan. He's everything you're not. And Jake's shock had hardened into focus. The screenshots of Mia's flirty texts with Ethan, the late-night, work, meetups, and Sarah's warning about Ethan's predatory pattern burned in his mind. He wasn't just hurt. He was angry, not at Mia alone, but at the guy who'd played her like a chess piece. Jake wasn't about to let Ethan slink away unscathed. He leaned back on Liam's couch, sipping a cold coffee. His phone buzzed with another text from Mia. Can we talk? I messed up. Please. He ignored it, just as he'd ignored the last 4. Talking wouldn't undo what he'd seen. Her packed bag, her smirk, the way she dismissed him like he was an inconvenience. Instead, he opened the agency's project portal again, using Mia's old login. Ethan's name popped up in a string of emails, always tied to Mia's projects. One caught his eye, a strategy session at a downtown bar last week, expense to the company. Jake cross-checked the date with Mia's texts. Sure enough, a message to Ethan that night. Your trouble. See you at 9. His grip tightened on the mouse. Sarah, Mia's co-worker, had given him the first lead, but Jake needed more. He messaged her again. Can you talk? Need details on Ethan. She replied within minutes, suggesting a call. He's careful, Sarah said, her voice low over the phone. Always friendly, always professional in public. But he targets women who are stressed, new hires, people on tight deadlines. He's all compliments and late-night drinks until they're hooked. Then he ghosts. I know 2 women he did this to. One left the agency after he spread rumors about her. Jake's jaw clenched. Any proof? He asked. Sarah hesitated. Nothing solid. He's good at covering his tracks. But check the company's Slack. He's sloppy there. Jake dove into the agency's Slack archives, a platform he'd accessed once to help Mia troubleshoot a login issue. Ethan's messages were polished, but buried in a private channel with Mia. Jake found what he needed. Casual invites to grab a drink and debrief, winking emojis, and vague references to last night. Jake saved every thread, his fingers moving methodically. This wasn't just about Mia anymore. Ethan was a repeat offender, and Jake was building a case. Liam walked in, tossing his keys on the counter. Still playing detective? He asked, glancing at Jake's screen. This guy's a creep, Jake said, not looking up. He's done this before, and no one stopped him. Liam raised an eyebrow. So what's the plan? You gonna confront him? Jake shook his head. Not yet. I'm not letting him spin this into a sob story. I need evidence that sticks. Liam nodded, grabbing a soda. Just don't lose yourself in this, man. You're not Batman. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Mia's face, her smirk as she'd said Ethan was everything he wasn't. But Sarah's words echoed louder. Ethan targeted vulnerabilities. Mia had been swamped, working 12-hour days on a high-stakes campaign. Jake remembered her late nights, her phone always buzzing, her quick apologies, just work stuff. He'd trusted her, chalked it up to her ambition. Now he wondered how long Ethan had been circling, waiting for her to crack. The next day, Jake got a break. Sarah sent a screenshot from a former employee's private chat, forwarded to her by a mutual friend. It was Ethan, messaging a woman named Lisa 2 years ago. "You're killing it at work. Let's celebrate, just us." Lisa had been married, Sarah said. Her marriage fell apart months later. The pattern was clear. Jake added the screenshot to his growing file. Now a folder labeled Ethan_Carter_evidence on his desktop. He wasn't sure how he'd use it yet, but the weight of it felt like power. Mia called again that afternoon. Jake let it go to voicemail. Her voice was shaky. "I know you're mad, and you have every right to be. I didn't mean to hurt you. Ethan, it wasn't real. I was just lost." Jake deleted the message. Lost didn't explain choosing to leave, choosing to lie. He wasn't ready to hear her excuses, not while he was still piecing together the truth. At work, Jake kept his routine, debugging code and nodding through meetings, but his mind was elsewhere. During a lunch break, he searched Ethan's name online, finding a tech conference where he'd spoken last month. The event's photo gallery showed Ethan grinning next to Mia at a cocktail hour, his hand on her shoulder. Jake saved the image, then noticed a comment on the post. "Great talk, Ethan. Always a charmer." The commenter was another woman from the agency. Jake messaged her anonymously through a throwaway account. "Heard Ethan's got a reputation. You know anything?" Her reply was cautious but telling. "He's smooth, but watch out. He's not what he seems." By Friday, Jake had enough to act. He'd compiled texts, Slack threads, expense reports, and Sarah's accounts into a single document. It wasn't just about Mia. It detailed Ethan's pattern across multiple women, backed by timestamps and screenshots. Jake considered confronting Ethan directly, but dismissed it. A fistfight wouldn't solve anything, and Ethan would likely play the victim. Instead, Jake crafted an anonymous email to the agency's HR director, attaching the document. He wrote, "This is about Ethan Carter. He's targeting female employees. The evidence speaks for itself." He hesitated, then hit send. His heart raced, but he felt no regret. That evening, he met Liam at a dive bar near Pike Place. The hum of conversation and clinking glasses drowned out his thoughts. "You sent it?" Liam asked, sliding into the booth. Jake nodded. "To HR, clean, no names tied to me." Liam raised his beer. "Smart. Let him sink himself." Jake didn't smile. "It's not enough. Mia still chose this. I need to know why." Liam leaned forward. "You might not get that answer, man. Sometimes people just choose wrong." Jake's phone lit up. "Mia again. I'm at the apartment. Can you come by? I owe you the truth." He stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of him wanted to go, to demand answers, to hear her admit how far she'd fallen for Ethan's game. But another part, the part that had spent days digging, saving, planning, knew the truth wouldn't fix what was broken. He pocketed the phone and took a sip of his beer. "Not tonight," he said, more to himself than Liam. He wasn't ready to face her, but he was ready to keep moving forward. Jake's thumb hovered over Mia's latest text. "I'm at the apartment. Can you come by? I owe you the truth." It had been a week since her cutting words. "I'm leaving you for Ethan. He's everything you're not." And 5 days since Jake sent the anonymous email to her agency's HR, packed with evidence of Ethan's predatory behavior. The Seattle skyline loomed outside Liam's apartment window as Jake pocketed his phone, ignoring her message. He wasn't ready to hear her excuses, not when his focus was on ensuring Ethan faced consequences. The folder on his laptop, Ethan_Carter_evidence, held screenshots, Slack threads, and coworker testimonies. A digital net closing around a man who'd hurt more than just Jake. He opened his laptop, checking for updates. A new email sat in his anonymous inbox, a response from HR. "We've received your submission and are investigating. Please provide any additional information." Jake exhaled, his pulse quickening. It was moving forward, but he needed to be thorough. He messaged Sarah, Mia's co-worker who'd tipped him off about Ethan's pattern. "Anything new on Ethan?" Her reply came fast. "He's acting cocky at work, like nothing's wrong. But I heard HR pulled him into a meeting yesterday. He's nervous." Jake leaned back, a grim satisfaction settling in. Ethan wasn't untouchable. That afternoon, Jake headed to a tech meetup in downtown Seattle, a low-key event where he sometimes networked. He hadn't planned to go, but Liam pushed him to get out, clear his head. The room buzzed with developers and startup founders pitching ideas over coffee. Jake was mid-conversation with a colleague when he spotted Ethan across the room, shaking hands with a venture capitalist, all charm and confidence. Jake's stomach twisted, but he stayed calm, blending into the crowd. Ethan hadn't seen him. Jake pulled out his phone, pretending to check messages, and snapped a discreet photo as Ethan leaned close to a young woman, his hand lingering on her arm. The move was subtle but familiar, too familiar. Jake sent the photo to Sarah. Is this typical for him? Her response was instant. Classic Ethan. That's Tara, new hire. He's already circling. Jake's mind raced. He couldn't let Ethan keep operating, not while HR dragged its feet. He opened the agency's Slack on his phone, using Mia's old login, and found a new private message from Ethan to Tara. Loved your pitch today. Let's grab coffee and talk strategy. The timestamp was an hour ago. Jake saved it, adding it to his evidence folder. He wasn't just protecting himself anymore. This was about stopping a pattern. He drafted a second anonymous email to HR, attaching the new screenshot and photo with a note. Ethan Carter is targeting another employee. This needs to stop now. Later that evening, Jake met Liam at a food truck lot near Capitol Hill. The air smelled of grilled tacos and fried dumplings, the crowd loud with chatter. Liam handed him a soda. You're obsessed, man, he said, half joking. This Ethan thing, it's eating you up. Jake shook his head. It's not just about me. He's done this to other women. Someone's got to end it. Liam nodded, chewing thoughtfully. Just make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. Not to get back at Mia. Jake didn't answer. He wasn't sure where the line was between justice and revenge, but he knew he couldn't stop now. Mia called again as Jake drove back to Liam's place. He let it go to voicemail. Her voice was softer this time, almost broken. Jake, I know I hurt you. Ethan, he made me feel like I was drowning and he was the only one who saw it. I was wrong. Please, just talk to me. Jake deleted the message, his jaw tight. Her words didn't erase the image of her packing her bag, choosing Ethan over him. But they did spark a question. How had Ethan gotten so close so fast? Jake reopened his evidence folder, scanning Mia's texts with Ethan. One from a month ago stood out. Work's killing me. I don't know how to keep up. Ethan's reply, you're a rock star. Let me take you out. You need a break. It was textbook, Jake realized. Ethan had preyed on her stress, her doubts, and turned them into an opening. The next morning, Jake got a tip from an unexpected source. A former agency employee, Jenna, messaged him through his anonymous account after Sarah shared his contact. I heard you're looking into Ethan Carter, she wrote. He cost me my job 2 years ago. I have emails he sent me, flirty, inappropriate. HR ignored me then, but I kept everything. Jake's heart raced as he read her attached files. Emails from Ethan to Jenna, mirroring the same charm he'd used on Mia. Jake forwarded them to HR, adding a note. This is a pattern. Check his history with Lisa and Jenna. He was building a case they couldn't ignore. By midday, Sarah texted with news. Ethan's been suspended. HR's digging into his emails now. People are talking. Jake felt a rush of relief, but it was short-lived. His phone buzzed with another text from Mia. I heard about Ethan's suspension. Did you do this? Jake didn't reply. Let her wonder. He wasn't doing this for her. He was doing it for every woman Ethan had manipulated, and for himself, to reclaim the control he'd lost when Mia walked out. That night, Jake attended a company gala where Mia's agency was pitching to big clients. He'd gotten an invite through a coworker, a chance to see the fallout. The event was at a sleek Seattle venue, all glass walls and city views. Jake stayed low-key, sipping a drink near the back, watching Ethan work the room like nothing was wrong. But there was a strain in his posture, a forced edge to his laugh. HR hadn't fired him yet, but the noose was tightening. Mia was there too, standing alone by the bar, her eyes scanning the crowd. She spotted Jake and started toward him, her steps hesitant. Jake, she said, voice low. I was lost. Ethan made me feel like I mattered again. I know that's no excuse, but you chose him. Jake cut in, his voice even. You packed a bag and told me he was everything I'm not. That's not being lost. That's deciding. Mia's eyes dropped, but before she could respond, Jake saw Ethan heading toward the exit, his phone pressed to his ear, his face tense. Jake slipped away, avoiding Mia's gaze. He didn't need her apologies. He needed Ethan gone. Back at Liam's, Jake checked his anonymous email. A new message from HR, investigation ongoing. Suspension extended. Thank you for your cooperation. Jake leaned back, exhaling. The pieces were falling into place, but the tension hadn't lifted. Mia's words from the gala echoed. Ethan made me feel like I mattered. Jake didn't want her back, but he needed to understand how she'd fallen so far. And he needed to make sure Ethan's suspension turned into something permanent. Jake woke to a notification on his anonymous email. Ethan Carter terminated effective immediately. Thank you for your detailed submission. His pulse quickened as he read it again, the words sinking in. It had been 10 days since Mia's betrayal. I'm leaving you for Ethan. He's everything you're not. And a week since Jake sent HR the evidence that exposed Ethan's predatory pattern. The folder on his laptop, packed with screenshots, emails, and coworker testimonies, had done its job. Ethan was out, his career in Seattle's tight-knit marketing scene effectively over. Jake felt a flicker of triumph, but it was bittersweet. Mia's choice still stung, and the victory didn't erase the hole she'd left. He was still crashing at his brother Liam's apartment, the pull-out couch now a familiar ache in his back. Liam, pouring coffee, noticed Jake's expression. "Good news?" he asked, sliding a mug across the counter. Jake nodded. "Ethan's gone. Fired." Liam raised his mug in a mock toast. "Nice work, detective. Now what? You gonna talk to Mia?" Jake shook his head. Her texts had slowed, pleas for forgiveness replaced by silence. But he wasn't ready to face her. Not yet. He needed to do something with the anger still simmering inside. Something bigger than just exposing Ethan. That morning, Jake opened his laptop and started a blog, Workplace Truths, under a pseudonym. He poured his story into it, not naming Mia or Ethan, but laying out the pattern. A charming predator targeting overworked women, exploiting their stress for personal gain. He included anonymized details from Sarah and Jenna, the coworkers who'd shared their own run-ins with Ethan. The post was raw but careful, focused on accountability, not revenge. He hit publish, then shared it on a few Seattle tech forums. By noon, it had 200 views. By evening, 2,000. Comments poured in. "This happened to me at my last job. Thank you for speaking up." Jake stared at the screen, stunned. His pain was resonating, turning into something constructive. Sarah texted him that afternoon. "Ethan's out, and people are talking. Mia quit the agency. Moved to her sister's in Portland." Jake paused, the news landing heavier than expected. Mia was gone, not just from their apartment, but from the city. He didn't reply, but the weight of her absence pressed harder. He opened his evidence folder one last time, scrolling through the texts where she'd called Ethan everything he wasn't. The words still cut, but they were losing their edge. He closed the laptop and grabbed his running shoes. The Seattle drizzle felt cleansing as he jogged along Capitol Hill, letting the rhythm of his steps drown out the noise in his head. The next day, Jake's blog post hit 10,000 views. A local nonprofit, focused on workplace ethics, reached out. "We'd love to feature your story in our campaign against harassment. Can we talk?" Jake agreed, meeting their director, Anna, at a coffee shop near Pike Place. She was direct, her questions sharp but kind. "Your post is sparking conversations," she said. "We want to amplify it. Workshops, maybe a panel. Will you speak?" Jake hesitated. He wasn't a public speaker, just a coder who'd been betrayed. But Anna's intensity, the comments on his blog, the memory of Ethan's smirk, it all pushed him to say yes. "I'll do it," he said. "But I stay anonymous." Anna nodded. "Deal." Mia's next text came that evening. Unexpected. "I saw your blog. I know it's you. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't know who Ethan really was until it was too late." Jake stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the reply button. He typed, "You made a choice." "So did I?" Then he deleted it. Instead, he blocked her number. Not out of spite, but because holding on to her words kept him stuck. He needed to move forward, not backward. The nonprofit's campaign gained traction fast. Jake's blog was linked in their newsletter, pushing its views to 50,000. Strangers shared their stories in the comments. Men and women who'd faced similar betrayals. Manipulators like Ethan who'd slipped through the cracks. Jake spent hours reading them, replying anonymously, his own hurt easing as he connected with others. Liam noticed the shift. "You're looking less like a zombie," he said over pizza one night. Jake laughed, the sound surprising him. "Feels good to do something," he admitted. "Not just for me." A week later, Jake got a call from Jenna, the former agency employee who'd shared Ethan's old emails. "I heard about the blog," she said. "You did what I couldn't. I told HR about Ethan 2 years ago, but they brushed me off. Thank you." Jake swallowed, her gratitude hitting harder than he expected. "I just followed the evidence," he said. Jenna laughed softly. "That's more than most do." She paused, then added, "Mia called me. She's a mess, says she didn't know Ethan's history. I believe her, but it doesn't excuse what she did." Jake didn't respond. He didn't need to. Jenna's words confirmed what he'd suspected. Mia wasn't the mastermind, but she wasn't blameless. The campaign's first workshop was set for the following week, and Jake spent days preparing. He wrote a speech, keeping it anonymous, focusing on patterns of workplace manipulation and the importance of speaking up. He practiced in Liam's living room, stumbling over words until Liam tossed a pillow at him. Stop overthinking. Just tell the truth. Jake nodded, nerves settling. The workshop was packed, 50 people, mostly young professionals, filling a community center. Jake spoke from behind his pseudonym, Alex, his voice steady as he shared his story. A betrayal, a pattern uncovered, a system forced to act. The room listened, silent, then erupted in questions. How do you spot someone like that? What if HR ignores you? Jake answered what he could, feeling the weight of their trust. Afterward, Anna pulled him aside. You're good at this, she said. We're planning a citywide panel. You in? Jake agreed, the decision easier this time. He was finding purpose in the wreckage, turning his pain into a warning for others. But as he left the center, his phone buzzed with an email from an unknown address. I know you're behind this. You'll regret it. No signature, but Jake knew it was Ethan. His first instinct was fear, but it faded fast. Ethan was a ghost now, his threats empty. Jake forwarded the email to HR, adding it to the case. He wasn't backing down. That night, Jake sat on Liam's couch, scrolling through the blog's comments. One stood out. Your story saved me from staying silent. I reported my boss today. Jake smiled. A real one, the kind he hadn't felt in weeks. Mia's betrayal had broken him, but it had also led him here, to a fight bigger than his own hurt. He wasn't healed, not fully, but he was moving. And for the first time since that night in the apartment, he felt like he was running towards something, not away. Jake stood at the edge of a small cafe by Seattle's waterfront, the salty breeze from Puget Sound cutting through the morning chill. It had been 3 weeks since Ethan's firing, 2 since Mia moved to Portland, and 1 since Jake's blog, Workplace Truths, sparked a citywide campaign against workplace harassment. His anonymous post had ballooned to 100,000 views, with comments pouring in from strangers who'd faced predators like Ethan. Today, Mia had texted, "Can we meet? I need to explain." Against his better judgment, Jake agreed, choosing a neutral spot. He wasn't here to reconcile, but to close the chapter that started with her words. I'm leaving you for Ethan. He's everything you're not. She arrived on time, stepping out of a cab, her posture stiff. Jake stayed seated at an outdoor table, nursing a black coffee. Mia sat across from him, hands folded tightly. Thank you for coming, she said, voice low. I owe you the truth. Jake nodded, saying nothing, his eyes fixed on her. She took a breath. Ethan saw me struggling, deadlines, pressure, feeling invisible. He listened, made me feel special. I fell for it. It started with texts, then lunches, then more. For months, Jake. I ended it when I heard he was fired. Her words were steady, but her fingers twitched, betraying her nerves. Jake leaned forward. You didn't just fall. You chose to leave. You packed a bag, told me he was everything I wasn't. Why? Mia's gaze dropped. I was drowning at work. You were always so steady, so enough. I thought I needed more. Ethan seemed like that, but he was playing me. I didn't see it until HR called me in. Jake's jaw tightened. You saw enough to let him in. To lie to me. Mia nodded, eyes wet but not crying. I know. I own that. I quit the agency, moved to my sister's. I'm trying to fix myself. Jake sipped his coffee, letting her words settle. He'd spent weeks digging into Ethan's pattern. Texts, emails, co-worker accounts, exposing a predator who targeted stressed women. Mia wasn't blameless, but she wasn't the mastermind. I heard about his history, she added. The other women. I didn't know. I thought I was different. Jake cut in, voice even. You weren't. But you could have stopped it. You didn't. She flinched, but didn't argue. Silence hung between them, broken only by the hum of passing cars. I don't hate you, Jake said finally. But I can't trust you. Not after that. Mia nodded, swallowing hard. Is there anything left for us? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Jake shook his head. What we had, it's gone. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm done. He stood, leaving cash for the coffee. Take care, Mia. She didn't follow as he walked away, the weight of her betrayal lifting with each step. Forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for him, to let go and move on. Back at Liam's apartment, Jake checked his blog. The nonprofit's campaign had exploded, with his story at its core. They'd booked him for a citywide panel, still anonymous as Alex. The event was in 2 days, and Jake spent hours refining his speech, focusing on accountability and workplace reform. Liam, sprawled on the couch, grinned. You're basically a hero now, huh? Jake snorted. Just a guy who got hurt and did something about it. But the words felt true. He wasn't just surviving. He was building something new. The panel was held in a packed community center, 200 people filling the seats. Jake spoke last, his voice steady behind a pseudonym. I trusted someone, he said, and they broke it. But the real betrayal was a system that let a predator operate unchecked. I found evidence, texts, emails, patterns, and sent it to HR. It worked. He's gone. But it's not enough. We need better systems, better protections. The room erupted in applause, questions flying. How do you report safely? What if no one listens? Jake answered, drawing from his experience, feeling the crowd's energy fuel his own. Afterward, Anna, the nonprofit's director, handed him a card. We're starting a task force. You'd be perfect for it. Jake took it, nodding. I'm in. Later, he got an email from HR. Ethan Carter is under review by a state ethics board. Your evidence was key. Jake forwarded it to his anonymous blog, adding a post. One voice can start a change. Keep speaking. It hit 10,000 views in hours, comments flooding with stories of others who'd reported and won. That night, Jake went for a run along the waterfront, the city's lights reflecting off the water. His phone stayed quiet. No texts from Mia, no threats from Ethan. He'd rented a small apartment nearby, signing the lease that morning. It was just a studio, but it was his. He'd started cooking again, simple meals for one, and rejoined a local coding group, pitching ideas with new energy. Therapy, which he'd started quietly, helped too. A neutral space to unpack the hurt without judgment. What do you want now? His therapist had asked last session. Jake hadn't answered then, but he knew now. A life he controlled, built on truth, not lies. A week later, Jake got a message from Sarah. The agency's rolling out new harassment policies because of you. Ethan's blacklisted in the industry. Jake smiled, replying, good. Thanks for the heads up. He didn't need revenge. Ethan's downfall and Mia's consequences were enough. His blog kept growing, now a platform for others to share safely. The nonprofit's task force was planning a statewide campaign, and Jake was helping draft guidelines. His name still hidden, but his impact clear. As he jogged home, the Seattle skyline glowed against the dusk. Jake felt lighter, not because the pain was gone, but because he'd turned it into something else, purpose. Mia's betrayal had shattered him, but it also pushed him to act, to protect others, to rebuild stronger. He didn't know what came next, but for the first time in months, he wasn't running from anything. He was running toward a future he'd chosen, one step at a time.